Good morning and welcome to Radio Ulster's consumer programme On Your Behalf. I'm Linda McCauley, and this morning, and January is a taxing time for many people, tax returns and new tax codes. More on that in a moment. Let's move on to another subject now. Tax deadlines and tax codes, which are a worry in January for people. And do pick up the phone if you have a question for my guest this morning. Tax expert Adrian Huston, former tax inspector, so you know from both sides of the fence. Is time running out if you need to file a return online this year?
Well, it's certainly getting short, Linda, but no, it's not running out in that we still have about 3 weeks to get those returns in. And the issue for
31st of January, is that
31st of January, and they must be filed online if you want to avoid a £100 fine.
So it's too late for the paper return?
You could still send it on paper, but you will be fined £100 and there's no getting out of it. So you might make a decision that I'll take the hit because I couldn't be bothered dealing with the Revenue's IT.
Would that be a reasonable point of view? What's the right?
It would be a reasonable point of view if you felt that your alternative was to pay someone to do your return. You might say, I'll just take the hit for £100. But you will get the penalty and don't expect to get off it.
But if you do register now, and it's not too late to register, you can make your return online.
Yes, you need to have a user ID, which you get online, and then you need to have an activation code, which comes by post. So you really need to get acting this weekend so that you have that in time. And if you've already had a user ID but you've lost your login, there are quicker ways of getting that refreshed. But if you've never had this activation code implemented, then you are going to receive something by post, and so you have to allow for the Revenue's rather slow post. And
when we're talking about returns at this time, this is for self-assessment for what type of people?
Self-assessment primarily affects directors of limited companies, self-employed people, most landlords, most people who have a rental property, and then what in Northern Ireland terms would be the very well off. So people earning, over £100,000 a year. Those are the main categories of people who will get a tax return every single year. And if they don't file it, the penalties are these days quite nasty.
And automatic. And new tax codes will be coming out about now. When are they appearing?
Yes, rather unhelpfully, the tax codes come out in January at a time when accountants really don't want to see them. Because they come out in January for use from the 6th of April. And the reason they come out in January is so that the taxpayers have a chance to fight with the Revenue and get the code sorted before it actually gets used. So if you've got a tax code and you don't like it, then either write to the Revenue or ring them in February, because at the moment they're inundated with calls about self-assessment and you'll just end up longer on hold.
How would you know? I mean, it's just letters and numbers.
If your tax code, if you're not a pensioner, the standard tax code is 1060L.
1060L.
So if you have anything other than that, then there's been some adjustment made. And if you don't know why that adjustment has been made, you can ask the Revenue to explain it. And the simplest way to do that is to write to them, because then when you get their answer, you have time to read it, rather than a telephone response where they say some guff and you sort of think, oh, well, they sound as if they know what they're talking about, and you leave the phone call rather unsatisfied.
So you're suggesting you write rather than phone?
Yes.
Is that because of the frustration levels of
Yes,
I'm
I'm going bald because of trying to deal with HMRC, and I actually, as an accountant, have a priority line I can get through within 2 minutes.
Ooh.
But yes,
well, you'd all like that number.
Well, that's the advantage of paying for professional advice, you see. I can do that. But
and others in your position.
Exactly. But individuals have to go onto the normal telephone line, and which recently surveyed that they're waiting sort of half an hour to 1 hour 20 minutes
particularly
to get
at this
through.
time of year.
Yes.
Well, I did read just in the last month or so that HMRC is announcing a modernisation programme in Northern Ireland, a new modern regional centre. That, I suspect, means just one centre and fewer offices. What does it really mean?
It does, yes. I mean, I used to work in tax offices in Ballymena and Coleraine, and it's very sad to see that they will no longer be operational. All the staff will be in Belfast over the next couple of years.
Yes, there's a time scale here of Newry, Coleraine, Craigavon, Enniskillen, all the Belfast ones, Lisburn and Londonderry, from starting 2016 up till 2021. So that's what that modernisation
yes.
and...
you could call it cost cutting.
Yeah, new fit for purpose. So it'll all be phone then?
It's basically all by phone now. You can't walk into a tax office at the moment. They have staff in these buildings around Northern Ireland, but you can't go in and see them and say, could you help me with my tax return? They don't have inquiry offices anymore. They cut those out about a year ago.
And stamp duty, is that also changing right now?
Stamp duty is changing for people who are buying a second property, for instance, to let out or as a holiday home. And that's changing from the 1st of April. So if you like buying properties to let out, or if you're buying a holiday home, get the deal completely through by the 31st of March, and you'll save yourself quite a lot of stamp duty, because any property over £40,000 will be hit with a 3% stamp duty.
So this is the day to think about doing it. In fact, not to think, to do it.
Get started.
Don't think again. Sometimes in January, time runs away. You're going to have to make the call. You're going to have to get a letter back with a code. You're going to have to do all sorts of things. Don't put it off. Adrian Huston, tax consultant, is in the studio. Lots of questions. You mentioned you had a special phone number, and Carol wants to know, is there a dedicated basic tax code for pensioners?
No, there isn't. Pensioners probably get the roughest deal in the tax system because they're the least likely to have an accountant, and they're most likely to have weird tax codes. Basically, this is because the state pension they receive is taxable, but the government can't tax it at source. So if you're receiving another pension, the Revenue issues you a code where they give you your personal allowance and then they deduct an amount for your state pension so that they're taxing it. So in other words, they're taxing your state pension via your occupational pension. So if you have an occupational pension, your tax code will be something less than the 1060L. Multiply a code by 10 and you get the amount of allowances. So 10,600 is the basic. You deduct your pension, that gives you your allowances. Divide that by 10, that gives you the numbers to use for the code. You're going glazed.
I got going glazed there. I'm afraid you lost me when you said the first number. But I can always help people if they are in certain criteria of a certain age, older people, and of a certain income. Tax help for older people is there. It's a charity. It's free. It will give you impartial advice. The link's on our website. So there may be help for certain people. As you say, though, pensioners, their pensions are taxed. And if you want to know more about tax help for older people, follow the links from our website or our phone-in operators. They'll give you a phone number as well. We've got a lot of queries about tax, Adrian. Kathleen says, when I got my tax code at the beginning of the year, it said the tax code letter is L, where pensioners, our income is not over the limit. Is it right? Because they can't find out. Can you go by the letter?
No, you can't. The only letters you need to be scared of are K and D. Those both mean a lot of tax. Every other code is just your allowances divided by 10. So 1060 is 1,060 times 10, 10,600 of allowances. So the L, it doesn't tell this woman whether her tax is right or not. But given she's a pensioner, her code should be well below 1060L because she's getting state pension. And if she's not sure about it, she can either ring the Revenue, or I would recommend writing to them and asking them to explain her code. And they've a lovely simple address these days. It's HMRC BX9 1AS. You don't need to put a city or anything else. That's the address, BX9 1AS.
But the only thing that is simple.
Right.
Another question. Raymond, I have a holiday home. I've had it for 10 years. He's asking about this 3% tax you were talking about, stamp duty. Is that what he's asking about?
It's what he's asking about. Raymond has no fears that the duty will hit him. However, if he's tempted to sell his holiday home, the buyers will get hit with the duty if they buy it after the 31st of March. So if he's wanting to sell it now.
Okay. For now, Adrian, thank you. Many questions still coming in on tax. Thank you to all my experts this week. So many calls, so many queries. No more time. From the team, Camilla Carroll, Roisin McNichol and me, Linda McCauley. Goodbye.